Alright, welcome back guys. As if the previous video wasn't boring enough, here I am again to lighten up your day. So thank you for joining me. This video we're going to be talking about all kinds of things. We're going to be talking about using statements, we're going to be talking about objects, a little bit on input and output, but most importantly we're going to be talking about our awesome sponsor, Embarcadero C++ Builder. Now what is Embarcadero C++ Builder, you might ask? Well, it's funny you should ask, because it's actually an IDE that's going to give you all the tools you need to build C++ applications. Especially if you're hoping to take a C++ application and deploy it to multiple platforms, Embarcadero C++ Builder is the tool for you. So what kind of platforms can you deploy to? Yeah, that's right, iOS, Android, Windows, and Mac OS. So don't waste your time learning a bunch of different languages to deploy to these different platforms. Learn C++, get C++ Builder, make your life a lot easier, go on LinkedIn and say you're a developer for all these different platforms, and you're totally awesome. C++ Builder has a community edition, so you should be able to go get it for free. Give it a try, let me know what you think, I'll leave a link for you in the description. Now let's get back to it. Alright, first thing, let's talk about the elephant in the room. What in the world is this std thing here? Lowercase s. Well, this, my friends, is actually an example of a namespace. If you come from a C background, you're probably like, what the heck are you talking about, man? You're not making any sense. But if you come from Java or C#, this is a very familiar concept. A namespace is basically just a grouping of code. So instead of just having all your code in one giant bin, imagine splitting it up into different groups called namespaces. Let's say we got two people, I don't have any names. We got little Susan over here, and she makes a sweet function that she wants to share with all of her friends. And then let's say we got Bill over here, and Bill is like, dude, my function is so much better than yours. All yours does is analyze data and do predictive modeling. Well, mine says, Bill is awesome 1,000 times in the console. Beat that, right? And little Susan, unfortunately, decided to name her function the same exact thing as Bill. I think I'm already forgetting his name. So basically we have a naming conflict, right? Because little Susan has the same function name as Bill over here, which stinks because Bill has some pretty good credit. People are going to download his code and they're going to start using his function. Susan wants to share her code with her friends too though, right? So if people try to import both of these people's codes into their project, what happens when they call that function, right? So we have an issue. Let's just say the function is called cout, just to match the example here. Little Susan and Bill both created a function called cout. This is a naming conflict. The solution to this is namespaces. Imagine we could expand this name just a little bit longer and prefix it with something to identify whether this is Bill's code or little Susan's code. Well, it would look like this. Bill, : cout, and then Susan, : cout. Now, it doesn't have to be their name. I just used that in this example. They could have made this whatever they wanted. That is the purpose of namespaces. It allows us to group our code and prevents naming conflicts. So basically, all of Bill's code can be in its own container, essentially, and all of little Susan's code can be in its container. And if you want to say, I want to call Bill's code, you could put Bill : and then the name of whatever you're trying to do. And if you wanted to call Susan's, you could say Susan : and the name of whatever you're trying to do. And if none of this makes sense, that's fine. Basically, what I'm trying to say here is that we need to prefix this with std : to be specific where we want this cout to come from. It's coming from the standard namespace, the std namespace. This is going to make a lot more sense as we go on. We're still in like video 4 or something, so don't feel like you have to have a full 360 understanding of every detail of this. Honestly, I'm not even close to that. All I know is that namespaces are a way to organize code and they help prevent naming conflicts. Now, when you're first getting started, you'll often see code that looks like this. It'll say something like using namespace and then in this situation, std. And what that allows us to do is it allows us to get rid of this. Basically, we're saying we're going to import all of this code and just make it directly available. Then we can just do cout directly. Now, is this a good idea or is this not a good idea? I'm actually going to talk about that in a really soon upcoming video. But more than likely, if you're in a class, they'll teach you that you can do this to make your life easier. But when you read online, people are going to tell you that it's bad practice because of naming conflicts. In general, it's okay to do it when you're starting out because you're not going to be running into these naming conflicts because you're not making very large applications. But for good practice reasons, you might want to just get used to prefixing things with the namespace. And there is another alternative, which I'm also going to be talking about in that upcoming video, where we're going to deep dive on using statements and all that good stuff. The next thing I wanted to talk about for basic applications is object-oriented programming. So I told you guys earlier that cout is, did I tell you guys that? So cout is an example of an object. Objects basically describe things. So cout is basically describing the console output, the output stream. It's a tool we can use to reach the console, however you guys want to think about it. Now in object-oriented programming, objects are birthed from classes. So the structure looks like this. We have a class, and this class becomes multiple objects, where each O is an object. I didn't want to write object 3 times. So think of it like this, right? A class is a cookie cutter for Christmas cookies. You're going to use that class to make a bunch of Christmas cookies. Every single one of those Christmas cookies that you're going to eat, those are the objects. A class just describes the structure of an object. Each object is an actual thing created from the class. So hopefully that makes sense. I like to just think of it as cout is a cookie. So if cout is a cookie, what is the cookie cutter for cout? You know, cout would be down here. What's up here? Well, it's actually an instance of OStream. So cout was birthed from OStream. So OStream is capable of creating unlimited cookies for all. Cout is just one of those cookies. So does that actually help you at all with object-oriented programming? Probably not, but if you can get in your brain the difference between a class and an object, it's going to make your life a million times easier once we get in object-oriented programming, which, by the way, is ingrained at the core for C++ programming. It's one of the main things C++ programming introduced that set it apart from C. Next thing I wanted to talk about are operators. Now, what do you think of when I say operator? Well, you might think of a doctor, like, you know, doing an operation, or you might think of an operator in math class, like a plus sign. Well, the operators I'm talking about are not the doctor kind, they're the plus sign kind. But in this situation, it's not a plus sign, it's actually these 2 arrows. So just like in math, when you put a plus sign, it means something. It's going to do something. Well, same thing with these arrows. So this here is an example of an operator. Operators work on what are known as operands. Just like if you would say 5 plus 5, the 5s are the operands. In this situation, cout is one of the operands, and this hello world string is one of the operands. Basically, all this operator does is it takes this data and gives it to this object to be printed to the console. C++ is very powerful when it comes to operators. You can custom program them to do whatever you want. So you should be able to later on make this operator understand how to print a custom object that you design from a class, and it's going to be really cool. It's going to be lots of fun. And if you can understand this mess, then I would say you're off to a really, really good start. So stick with it, guys. Don't quit. C++ will blow your brain up in the most beautiful way possible. Thank you, guys. Please be sure to subscribe if you've enjoyed this content. It really, really helped me out, and don't forget to stick through the entire series. I'll see you in the next one.